starting to come to light, which means that, according to ProPublica, quote, there are almost certainly others. This inexcusable stain on our country, this tragedy, is part of something once kept deeply hidden from any political discourse. We never knew these stories. And that is the harrowing accounts of women who are or could be our sisters or our daughters, our mothers, or our friends, being denied vital, life-saving health care after Donald Trump's hand-picked Supreme Court justices stripped away the constitutional right to an abortion. And these real-life stories are so raw, so undeniably cruel, so senseless, that Trump's MAGA loyalists are working overtime to change reality, to deflect and distract from the horror that Donald Trump almost single-handedly created. One former Trump staffer, Project 2025 advisor, a guy named John McEntee, has publicly tried to claim that these tragedies aren't happening at all. As we showed you last week, this guy, John McEntee, took to TikTok to claim that stories about women's suffering are made up.
Can someone track down the women Kamala Harris says are bleeding out in parking lots because Roe v. Wade was overturned? Don't hold your breath.
Eating chicken nuggets while being that inhumane is an interesting touch. It seems to have worked since we showed you that video on TikTok Friday. It's made its way around the internet, and the comments have been flooded with women sharing stories of being denied vital abortion care. The Independent is reporting that the McEntee video now has more than 17,000 comments, almost all from women sharing their stories of being denied care. Quote, posting stories of being turned away from emergency rooms in agony, bleeding out in parking lots, at home, in public bathrooms, and sometimes for months afterward. Others talk about miscarriages, ectopic pregnancies, losing the ability to have children, and driving across multiple states to get treatment where it is still legal, often while hemorrhaging. Most of the stories appear to involve wanted or planned pregnancies. The deadly reality for women in 2024 in Donald Trump's post-Roe America is where we start the hour with some of our favorite reporters and friends. ProPublica senior editor Ziva Brandstetter is here. She edited that incredible piece of reporting we read from. Also joining us, President of Reproductive Freedom for All, Mini Timuraj, is here, and former Obama White House Policy Director, MSNBC medical contributor, Dr. Kavita Patel is here. You know, Ziva, I wish that guy, what is his name, Johnny McEntee with the fast food fetish, I wish he was right. I actually wish this wasn't real. But tragically it is. Take us through the ProPublica report.
First, thank you for having us on to talk about this important reporting by Kavita Sarana and other journalists at ProPublica. We found that, this is a very real case of a 28-year-old woman who died in a suburban Atlanta hospital from a preventative cause. And, the state committee that is assigned to review these cases found it preventable. There's a simple procedure that could have saved her life, could have stopped the infection growing within her body. And it wasn't performed for 20 hours. We don't know what was in the committee's mind or what was in the doctor's minds, but we do know what the outcome was, Nicolle, and that was this 28-year-old woman is dead. She's one of at least 2 women who've died in Georgia in situations that appear related to the ban and that the state committee has found preventable.
Minnie, I don't want to gloss over this one case yet and talk more broadly about our politics, because I think that what Republicans want people to believe is not just that these women don't exist, but that they're a certain kind of woman. Not that they're a mom who may have desperately wanted the baby she was pregnant with. I think it's why Amanda Zarowski is so inconvenient to Republicans. But there's a little boy who lost his mom at 6 because of Donald Trump's criteria for selecting Supreme Court justices, for only wanting people who would overturn Roe. Whatever happens in our politics, nothing undoes that single tragedy for this family and this little boy.
Yeah, look, we knew this was happening. I have a tremendous amount of gratitude to the tough, smart, persistent reporters at ProPublica who finally proved it, right? I mean, we've been collectively gaslit by Republicans for the past 2 years since Dobbs. We've been shouting, women will die, women are likely dying. Now we have the proof. Amber Thurman would be alive today if it wasn't for Donald Trump and Brian Kemp's abortion ban. Brian Kemp signed that bill. Brian Kemp, a governor who has the opportunity with his legislature to move the Reproductive Freedom Act in Georgia to repeal and fix this mess, has shown no indication he's willing to do it. It's important to understand for everybody that there's complicity up and down the policymaking structure, from the Supreme Court to the Fifth Circuit to the Georgia legislature to the Georgia governor's mansion to the White House. They've all conspired and collaborated for women like Amber to die. I cannot say it enough. We did not have to be in this place. We do not have to live like this. We owe it to Amber and the countless number of women whose stories we do not yet know to do something about this.
Dr. Patel, I want to read you more from ProPublica's reporting on how Amber died. Quote, by the time doctors began to operate on Amber, the situation was so dire that doctors started with open abdominal surgery. The OB performed the DNC, but immediately continued with the hysterectomy. During surgery, Thurman's heart stopped. Her mother was praying in the waiting room when one of the doctors approached. Come walk with me, she said. Her mother recalled her daughter's last words before she was wheeled into surgery. They had made no sense coming from a vibrant young woman who seemed to have her whole life ahead of her. Quote, promise me you'll take care of my son. This isn't an account from the 60s. This isn't fiction. This isn't an ad. This is the United States of America post-Dobbs.
Yeah, Nicolle, and it gets even worse. Just, again, kudos to ProPublica for bringing this story forward. As many said, we knew these stories were happening. We know this is the tip of the iceberg. And what's troubling, Nicolle, is just reading 20 hours. And she was put, just to be clear, this wasn't 20 hours. She came in with no pain, nothing acute. She had an elevated white blood cell count. She had all the signs. In fact, at one point in the documentation, one of the consultants said that she's in septic shock. So this is very clearly doctors who knew what was happening, not just doctors, entire teams. But you can see how much people ask me, Nicolle, often, well, won't doctors just do the right thing? At the end of the day, won't they do the right thing? This just shows you how much of an overhang and a shadow. And I just want to give a little perspective. I don't know any of the doctors involved. I know this hospital, but I don't know the doctors. I know probably what the doctors were thinking, and Minnie knows this too. They're thinking, well, if I get arrested and get removed, and I'm the only covering OB for this area, how many other women am I not going to treat? So this is the position that medical professionals have been put in. By the way, just to say something, Amber herself was a medical professional. She was a medical assistant who was going on to learn nursing. So think about all the layers and things she knew that were wrong in order to get her, unfortunately, into not having an orphan child. That's what's even more mind-boggling, Nicolle. This is someone who knew the medical system, knew it well enough to go out of state, knew it well enough to know what to say. Even she couldn't get the care she deserved.
I want to come back to the reporting, Ziva. This is from what you report. Amber found out she was pregnant with twins in the summer of 2022. She was already a single parent and preparing to apply to nursing school, so she decided to have an abortion. Georgia's 6-week ban had just gone into effect, however, so she made an appointment for a surgical abortion in North Carolina. She got stuck in traffic due to the long drive and missed the window for a surgical abortion. The clinic couldn't hold her place because they were inundated with women coming from out of state, and so Amber had to rely on the abortion pill regimen. She was a good candidate for the abortion pill and took them as directed. She experienced heavy bleeding. If she'd been in North Carolina, the clinic that saw her originally would have done a DNC for free, but she was too far away. On August 18th, 2022, she vomited blood, passed out, and her boyfriend called 911. At the hospital, she presented with clear, unmistakable signs of sepsis. And as Dr. Patel just said, it took doctors 20 hours to operate. Her heart stopped on the operating table, and she died. What will happen now to all of these facts that are not disputed?
Well, that's a really good question, isn't it? I mean, one of the interesting things we've found is that these findings are never shared with families. Amber's family learned that her death had been deemed preventable from ProPublica. You know, I know that this board takes its investigation seriously. It reviewed her medical records and deemed this preventable. It said that her death was largely largely caused by this delay, this 20-hour delay. Again, we don't know what was in doctors' minds. They did discuss a DNC several times. You know, we're very interested in knowing more. Kavitha Sarana would love to hear from people who know more. We want the entire story to come out. You know, it's really up to the public and to elected officials there in Georgia to determine how to handle this. Brian Kemp, you know, his office, Governor Kemp, said that ProPublica was engaging in fear-mongering when we reached out about this story. And that's the same words they used 2 weeks before Amber died, when advocates who were trying to stop Georgia's 6-week abortion ban said women would suffer and possibly die because of the 6-week ban. So they're consistent in their, you know, in their reactions to these warnings and now this confirmed case from their own board.
Zia, tell me more about Kemp thinking this is fear-mongering. What part do you think was fear-mongering? Amber dying or the facts of how she died coming out?
You know, I can only assume that they think talking about this case is somehow, you know, making some leap on our part. I mean, I don't know what else elected officials like Governor Kemp need to know. We're presenting the facts as the state board presented the facts, and the fear-mongering is should be looked at as something that, you know, is being overblown. And this is, again, a woman who has died, one of two at least. And, you know, obviously we think that that high cost of life is very important and not fear-mongering.
So Minnie, this is for Brian Kemp, more from ProPublica. Quote, within Thurman's first hours at the hospital, it should have been clear that she was in danger, medical experts told ProPublica. Quote, her lower abdomen was tender, according to the summary. Her white blood cell count was critically high, and her blood pressure perilously low. At one point, as Thurman got up to go to the bathroom, she fainted and hit her head. An ultrasound showed possible tissue in her uterus. If they're afraid, you know, welcome to being female in America. If they're suggesting fear-mongering, the term is typically associated with an exaggeration or something that isn't happening. I would say to Governor Kemp and to Johnny McEntee, again, I wish they were right, but tragically for Amber and too many women, this is all way too real. Where have the years or the time that we've lived with this, how has the reality sort of caught up to the lies? It feels like they aren't getting away with the disinformation. Voters know better.